the lead detective who wanted to be here to observe.
Okay. All right, you're muted, but who else do we have as a panelist? There's no picture of you, it just says Aaron Hubbard. Who is that? If you just unmute your device and let me know who that is.
I think that might be one of my relatives with the wrong link. I'm going to ask her to log off now.
Well, I may be able to fix that. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can just make that person a non-video participant. I can remove this person. I don't want them to remove them from the whole proceeding. I think that this will just knock them in as an attendee. So whoever that is who's in on the panelist page, if you get disconnected, just you can reconnect, and the Zoom ID is 920-1314-9965.
Judge, could you say that one more time, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's you know, I think actually it might just be easier if are you expecting are you wanting to be heard during this meeting, or are you just observing?
I'm just observing.
Just observing. So I think probably the best thing for you to do, and I'll wait a few minutes to make sure that you have enough time to do it. I think probably the best thing for you to do is actually to just disconnect and then reconnect using the this Zoom ID. And
Okay.
it's 920-1314-9965.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Mr. Hubbard, are you expecting anyone else who needs to be heard in this proceeding this afternoon, other than Mr. Reisinger?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll wait just a moment for Mr. Reisinger's family member to reconnect as an attendee. Once I see that that's happened, we'll get started. All right, and the attendee we just had a new attendee pop in, so I think that's probably been taken care of now. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me call the case first for the record. This is State versus John Baranow and State versus Cameron Herron, 18 CF 7525A and B. Let me take appearances, please, for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Anthony Rickman on behalf of John Baranow, who's present and to my left.
Your Honor, good afternoon. John Fitzgibbons with Cameron Herron, who is present with me.
All right, thank you.
And Your Honor, Aaron Hubbard on behalf of the State Attorney's Office.
Thank you. All right, and I see Mr. Reisinger is also joined us. Mr. Rickman, I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing your client's name. In the last hearing, I thought I heard Baranow, but then this morning I thought I heard Baranow.
Yes, Your Honor, it's Baranow.
Baranow, okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, so we had set this for the purpose of each of the defendants in this case changing their plea to guilty. Is that still the plan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
I thought it would make most sense to take Mr. Herron's plea first, because if Mr. Herron didn't enter if he doesn't enter a plea of guilty, as of course we're expecting him to, but if he were not to, then I think that would put us in a different situation with Mr. Barano, because then he'd be expected to be called as a witness. Is that right, Mr. Hubbard?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Is that okay with does everyone agree with that, proceeding in that order, first with Mr. Heron and then Mr. Barano?
We have no objection, Your Honor.
That's fine with us, Judge.
All right, let me start then with Mr. Heron. First of all, Mr. Fitzgibbons, can you verify the identity of Mr. Heron?
Yes, Your Honor. For the record, John Fitzgibbons, representing Cameron Heron, he is sitting to my right here in my office.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard, do you have any questions or concerns relating to the identity of the defendant?
No, Your Honor, I can see Mr. Heron. I've seen him on at least one occasion when we were out on the scene that day, and in photographs and things of that nature. I have no dispute that is Cameron Heron there seated with Mr. Fitzgibbons.
Does the state consent to the court swearing in Mr. Heron by Zoom without the presence of a notary public?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's agreeable to that.
Right, Mr. Fitzgibbons, that's agreeable to you also?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Heron, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can put your hand down. Mr. Heron, first of all, I just wanted to make sure that you understand you have the right to enter a plea in person in the physical presence of the court. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you are giving up that right by having me take your plea through the Zoom conference?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to him?
No, Your Honor.
And do you waive your right to be physically present in court when you enter or change your plea? Is that a right that you're waiving, sir? Are you giving up that right to be present in court?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You can. It's okay with me if you stay seated. I just couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Mr. Heron, are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or medication?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I could say this, he is on some medication, which is described in the plea form.
Okay.
These are two medications prescribed by a physician. I've talked with the physician. They're for anxiety and for sleep. And you'll see that right there. It does not interfere with his ability in any way to understand the proceedings.
Mr. Heron, did you take the medications that Mr. Fitzgibbons is referring to? Did you take those as directed? Did you take them the way you were supposed to take them? In other words, did you take them in the
Yes,
proper
Your Honor.
amounts at the proper times?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
And do those medications interfere with your ability to think clearly, make decisions?
No, Your Honor.
Is this a good time of day for you to be answering these questions, or would there be a better time of day for us to be doing this?
No, this is fine, Your Honor.
Do you have any mental health condition that prevents you from understanding my questions?
No, Your Honor.
What's the highest level of school that you've completed?
I have just completed, I believe, my second year of college.
You read and understand English?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you read and understand the plea form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand all of the rights that are listed in the plea form? There's in the plea form, there's a list of rights.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand all of them?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm holding the plea form up. Do you recognize that? Is that the plea form that you signed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to your attorney about this form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get all questions that you had about the form answered?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there anything you don't understand in the plea form?
No, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about the plea form or the rights that you're giving up?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand that one of the rights that you're giving up in the plea form and by changing your plea is the right to a jury trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
If we had a jury trial, you'd be able to testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you'd be able to call witnesses. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You'd also be able to question witnesses. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So all those are rights that you're giving up by changing your plea.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're also giving up the right to require the state to prove its case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been satisfied with the service of your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there anything that your attorney did not do or failed to do in this case that you think should have been done? I think you might have answered, but I couldn't hear it. Is there anything that you are aware of that your attorney should have done that he did not do?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any other motions that should have been filed other than the motions that were filed in the case? Is there anything else he should have filed?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any other witnesses that your attorney should have talked to that he did not talk to?
No, Your Honor.
You know of any other depositions that he should have taken?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any other information that your attorney should have received from the state that was never received?
No, Your Honor.
Is there anything at all that you want your attorney to do still in this case that has not yet been done?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, are you aware of any work that should have been done in this case that was not done? And
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Herron, do you understand that you are, by changing your plea today, you are giving up the right to have your attorney continue working on this case and gathering information and discovery and continuing to file motions? All the work that has been done so far, that will stop by you changing your plea. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're giving up the right to file any other motions in this case. Do you that relate to whether or not you're guilty? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you're never going to, if you change your plea to guilty today, you will never be able to contest whether or not you're guilty. You'll be giving that right up. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up any defenses that could be raised in this case, whether they were raised or weren't raised. You're giving up any defenses. You're giving them up forever. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All you're left with at the end of changing your plea is the ability to appeal the sentence of the court. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
There was a motion to suppress evidence that your attorney filed in this case, and I heard that motion, and I ruled against you. I denied that motion. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you talked to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that by changing your plea, you won't be able to appeal that motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
So if I got that wrong, if my ruling was incorrect, if I should have granted the motion and I made a mistake, you're not going to be able to appeal that now. You won't be able to appeal that to the next court and have them reverse my error if I made one. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you talked to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about that or anything else that I've discussed with you so far?
No, Your Honor.
By changing your plea to guilty today, you'll be entering an open plea. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand what an open plea is?
Yes, Your Honor.
An open plea is when you enter a plea of guilty without any specific agreement with the state of Florida or with this court, with me, on what your sentence is going to be. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you talked to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone told you what your sentence is going to be in this case? If you answered that,
No,
it
Your Honor.
didn't
not
come through.
necessarily.
All right, I'll just ask it again because there was a delay. Has anyone told you what your sentence is going to be?
No, Your Honor.
Has Mr. Hubbard or anyone from the state of Florida made any promise to you or given you any indication at all on what your sentence is going to be?
No, Your Honor.
Have I done that? Have I indicated to you in some way what the sentence in this case is going to be?
No, Your Honor.
Has your attorney made any promise or indication to you of what your sentence is going to be?
No, Honor. No, Your Honor.
And do you understand that on the 2 counts of vehicular homicide, each of those is punishable up to 15 years in the Florida State Prison. So the total prison exposure you have on this case is 30 years Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone told you that you are not going to be sentenced to 30 years Florida State Prison?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand that's a possible outcome?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that once you get sentenced in this case, if you don't like the sentence or if you don't agree with it, you won't be able to take it back? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
It would be too late. You would not be able to withdraw the plea because you didn't like the sentence and change your mind and go to trial. It'd be too late to do that. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand if you're not an American citizen, changing your plea will lead to your deportation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you changing your plea today freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone forced you or threatened you in order to get you to change your plea? That I think we had another delay there, so I didn't hear the response. I'll repeat the question. Has anyone threatened you or forced you in any way to get you to change your plea?
No, Your Honor.
And has anyone promised you anything in order to get you to change your plea?
No, Your Honor.
You have been charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide. Each of those is a second-degree felony. Each is punishable up to 15 years in the Florida State Prison for a total of 30 years in the Florida State Prison. You've also been charged with unlawful racing on a highway. That's a first-degree misdemeanor punishable up to 1 year in the county jail. Do you understand those charges and the maximum sentence you face?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the state provide a factual basis?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, on May 23rd of 2018, around 11:30 a.m., the defendant, John Baranow, and this defendant, Cameron Herron, were driving northbound on Bayshore Boulevard near downtown Tampa. Defendant John Baranow was the sole occupant and driver of a 2015 Nissan Altima. Cameron Herron, this defendant who we're addressing now, was the driver of a 2018 black Ford Mustang. That Mustang vehicle was occupied by a passenger, his brother Tristan Herron. The vehicle started traveling northbound on Bayshore Boulevard after leaving the area of Gardner Court, which is around the residence of Mr. Herron, just south of the intersection of Gandy and Bayshore. The vehicles approached and began to be positioned at a red light at the intersection of Gandy and Bayshore. As that light turned green, the vehicles then proceeded with other traffic north on Bayshore Boulevard. It's at this point that witnesses began describing the vehicles passing them, passing other vehicles, changing lanes, at one point being parallel, and then accelerating away from traffic that had just been passed. The following statements that I'm gonna read into the record were given by witnesses who described the behavior of the Nissan Altima. driven by John Barano, and the Ford Mustang being driven by this defendant, Cameron Herron. Brian Green provided sworn testimony that as he was in the northbound curb lane of Bayshore Boulevard at the intersection of Gandy, he was passed by both vehicles who sped off, passing him. He stated that they appeared to be racing each other as they continued to accelerate northbound. He heard the Mustang's exhaust as it accelerated and then saw two vehicles swerve and a victim fly into the air. He repeatedly stated that he saw the Mustang and the Nissan racing into the impact with the victims. Witness Robert Brooklyn provided sworn testimony that he too was northbound on Bayshore when he was passed by the Mustang and the Nissan. He estimated speeds to be approximately 60 miles an hour when they passed him, and he too observed them rapidly accelerating and could hear the exhaust from the Mustang as they continued to race north on Bayshore Boulevard. Mr. Brooklyn stated that in his opinion, the Mustang and Nissan were racing, and that he observed the Mustang to be ahead in front of the Nissan before he saw the victim fly through the air. He again reiterated that he was 100% sure these two vehicles were racing each other. John Cowan provided sworn testimony that he was walking northbound on the sidewalk on the water side of Bayshore Boulevard when he heard loud engine revving behind him. He turned and looked and saw the black Mustang and the gold Nissan driving at a high speed past him. He stated that the Mustang was in front of the Nissan. He watched as the vehicle sped past him and changed lanes to avoid slower traffic. And shortly after, he heard a crash and ran to the scene where he observed two victims in the same two vehicles, the black Mustang and the gold Nissan. Stephanie Ives provided sworn testimony that she was driving north on Bayshore Boulevard, traveling approximately 40 miles an hour after leaving the traffic light there at Gandy. She advised that she had just changed lanes from the median lane to the curb lane, which is the waterside northbound lane of Bayshore Boulevard, when she noticed the two vehicles speed past her. She stated that the vehicles were in line, and she, in her statement, said that the Nissan at one point was in front of the black Mustang. As the vehicles continued traveling north on Bayshore, the victim, Jessica Reisinger, was walking and pushing a stroller with her child, Lilia Ravenel. Jessica was attempting to cross Bayshore Boulevard near a street crossing for Knights Avenue. The Ford Mustang that was being operated by Cameron Herron struck Jessica Reisinger and the stroller carrying Lilia as they were crossing the street. Both Jessica and Lilia died as a result of being struck by the black Ford Mustang. Patrol Officer Rhonda Barber Jones with Tampa Police Department was one of the first law enforcement officers on scene and testified that as she approached both defendants who were outside of the vehicles, that they both made statements. The first she identified as this defendant, Cameron Herron, pointing to the black Mustang and making the statement that he was driving that car. The other male she identified as John Baranos, pointing to the gold Nissan and making statements that he was driving that car. She did identify the third person, the passenger, Tristan Herron, who made statements that he in fact was a passenger in the Mustang. Further identification through the investigation revealed that the Nissan was registered to the father of John Barano, and it was further determined that the black Mustang was purchased by the parents of Cameron Herron, and that the vehicle was given to him as a gift just prior to this crash occurring. The crash occurred at around 11:43 a.m., and that was at a time that Bayshore Boulevard was heavily occupied with vehicle and pedestrian traffic, and the speed limit on Bayshore at the time of the crash was 45 miles an hour. A search warrant was obtained, and download of the Ford Mustang infotainment system was conducted. That system, as Your Honor knows from the motion, keeps the vehicle data such as vehicle speed, GPS location, braking data, hard acceleration data. Data from the Ford Mustang showed that the Ford Mustang had reached a speed of 102 miles an hour just 6 seconds prior to the impact with the victim, Jessica and Lilia. The speed of the Mustang, in addition to the witness statements, showed that both defendants were operating their vehicles in a reckless manner that was likely to cause great bodily harm or death. The witness statements indicated that these vehicles were in fact racing each other and driving recklessly. and that the actions of both of these defendants, Mr. Heron and Mr. Barano, in fact, as a result of their operation of those vehicles, did in fact cause the death of Jessica Reisinger and Lilia Ravenel. Both defendants were identified based on what I had stated prior to and all events that occurred in Hillsborough County.
Mr. Heron, do you understand those are the facts that you are pleading guilty to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Heron, I want to discuss a little bit more the potential sentence that you could receive in this case by changing your plea. We talked about the maximum that could be sentence you could receive is 30 years Florida State Prison. You told me you understood that was a possible outcome. I also want to discuss your score in this case. Have you been provided with a score sheet from the state of Florida?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand, now, Mr. Hubbard, I believe I understand that was 222 months?
Your Honor, yes, and in fact, I meant to mention earlier, I did email Your Honor a copy of that just shortly before the hearing, but yes, the bottom of the sentencing guidelines call for a lowest permissible sentence of 222 months in Florida State Prison.
Do you have any reason to believe that that is incorrect? Is there anything incorrect about the score sheet that you're aware of, Mr. Heron?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, do you agree with the calculation that the state's made on the score sheet?
We do, Your Honor.
Mr. Heron, have you talked to your attorney about what that score means?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your attorney, it's my understanding that at a future sentencing hearing, your attorney is going to make a presentation where he'll try to persuade the court to that there is a legal basis to depart from that 222 months. Have you talked to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that I don't know what's going to happen at that hearing because we haven't had it yet. So I don't know what evidence is going to be presented. But do you understand that if the court does not agree that there is a legal basis to depart, then I will have to sentence you to at least 222 months in the Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If I find that there's no departure basis available, then even if I think that that's not fair or it's too much, I would still have to at least sentence you to that 222 months. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And 222 months is between 18 and 19 years in the Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone indicated to you that you are going to be sentenced less than that 222 months?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone indicated or promised to you in any way that the court is definitely going to find that there's a basis for departure?
No, Your Honor.
You understand that it's a possible outcome of that hearing that the court could determine there's no basis for departure. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's two other forms in this case that I just want to go over with you very briefly. First is a DNA inquiry addendum. Did you read and understand that form?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Did you talk to your attorney about it?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to hold that up. Is this the form that you read and signed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you see your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any DNA evidence that would prove or tend to prove that you are not guilty in this case?
No, Your Honor.
I didn't get a clear answer on that. I think just from the Zoom technology. Can you just repeat that?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. And then finally, the waiver of physical presence. We talked about that. Do you see that form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you read and understand that form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to with your attorney about it?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hubbard, before I ask the defendant for his plea. Is there anything else that I missed or that that the state would request that the court inquire about from this defendant?
There is, Your Honor, just two matters I wanted to just put on the record, and Mr. Fitzgibbons and Mr. Rickman can attest to this, but just as far as discovery goes, Mr. Rickman and Mr. Fitzgibbons did in fact conduct depositions of every single witness that was listed by the state of Florida. So I think that needs to be put on the record that they did an extensive discovery process in this case on behalf of Mr. Herron and Mr. Barano. And then the other thing I would just ask that the court just clarify on the downward departure, that Mr. Herron's aware that that is within Your Honor's discretion, that even if there were reasons for departure, Your Honor could ultimately choose in your own discretion not to depart, but just to make sure that he understands that. And that was the only two things.
Mr. Hubbard, I will talk to Mr. Herron about that. I do want to make sure he understands that. Before I do that, Mr. Fitzgibbons, or is there anything you wanted to put on the record about discovery or anything else?
No, Your Honor, we conducted extensive discovery in the case. We deposed over 3 witnesses, virtually anyone mentioned by the state. We received round after round of discovery. So there would be nothing further I would have to add there.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Herron, the next point that I want to go over with you, it's back to this, the score that you have. And I talked to you about how the court may listen to that presentation and find that there's no basis to depart. And then I'll at least have to sentence you to the 222 months. You told me you understood all that.
Yes, Your Honor.
The next part of that is that it's also possible from that hearing that I'll decide that there is a legal basis to depart, and I will be able to sentence you to less than 222 months. If that happens, do you understand that I'm not required to depart and sentence you to less than the score, the 222 months?
Yes, Your Honor.
So do you understand, even if I find that there is a legal basis to depart, the court still may, in its discretion, sentence you to at least that 222 months Florida State Prison, and it could be all the way up to that 30 years Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that there's 2 counts in this, each is vehicular homicide? Well, there's 3 counts, but the felony counts each are vehicular homicide. Those are counts 1 and 2. And the 30 years that we've been talking about, that's because those sentences can be, the court can sentence you consecutively on those, which means you'd serve potentially 15 years on count 1, and then after that's finished, 15 years on count 2. Do you understand all that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubbard, is there anything else you want me to go over or that I've missed, or that the state would request that I go over with the defendant before I take his plea?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, anything from you?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Herron, on count 1, vehicular homicide, what plea do you want to enter?
Guilty, Your Honor.
On count 2, vehicular homicide, what plea do you want to enter?
Guilty, Your Honor.
And on count 3, unlawful racing on highway, what plea do you want to enter?
Guilty, Your Honor.
The court will accept that plea of guilty and find that it is freely, voluntarily, and intelligently made, find that there is a factual basis to support the charges. Mr. Fitzgibbons, let's talk about when sentencing should be scheduled in this case. What do you think is an appropriate time frame for sentencing?
Your Honor, we would first request a pre-sentence investigation report.
Yes, sir.
Then we anticipate making a significant presentation. I would ask the court to set off the sentencing. We're probably going to lose at least 30 days with the PSI preparation. I would ask for sometime the middle of February, with the exception that I will be out of town on a case during the week of February 8th. So I would request the court sometime after February 15th, ideally, the following week would be good, Judge, the 22nd. We have a number of witnesses to talk to, preparation of a sentencing memorandum, expert testimony from a physician, I anticipate. So you know it will be, there's a lot of things we have to do as we now shift our focus.
Yes,
to
sir.
the sentencing. Yeah.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, February 18th and 19th are both, both of those days are available on my calendar the whole day. And actually, those are days where I can use a larger courtroom. So you had requested something in person, and a larger courtroom would help facilitate that. Are either of those days available?
Yes, they are both available, Judge.
Do you or your client, or does the state of Florida have a preference between February 18th and February 19th?
Your Honor, I think either one is fine with us.
Mr. Hubbard, any preference from you?
Yeah, I mean, I would just ask for the 18th in the event. I don't know if Mr. Fitzgibbons has a time frame, at this point in mind, but so I would just ask for the 18th in case for some reason things spilled over. We could still use the 19th.
Okay, that's fine. That's a good idea. And is Mr. Reisinger planning to attend that in person?
Yes, Your Honor, and I would
Yes.
fully anticipate, based on our discussions, members of his side of the family, the Reisinger family, and then the Ravenel family. So yeah, we'll have a number of witnesses to present also.
All right, and those, Mr. Reisinger, those dates are okay with you, February 18th and 19th?
Yes, sir.
Then let's schedule it for February 8th. I'm going to block off both days, the 18th and 19th. It sounds like it's going to be a one-day thing, but just in case, we'll have the 19th if we need to finish. So I'll block off both days. I have, first of all, I obtained permission from the chief judge to do this in person. And I've secured courtroom 1 for it, which is anticipating there might be a lot of witnesses. We need a larger courtroom so I can have some increased capacity for witnesses and people who are there for it. So this is going to be in courtroom 1 on February 18th and 19th. What time is 9 o'clock okay, or do you want to start earlier? Since we have witnesses coming from out of town, let's do 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock is fine with us.
Okay, so February 18th, 9 o'clock will be the sentencing in this case. The court is going to order a PSI for Mr. Herron, and the court will direct the Department of Corrections to provide that PSI to the court on or before, let's say, the close of business on Thursday, February 4th. And then, Mr. Fitzgibbons, that'll give you 2 weeks with the PSI report before the sentencing. Is that acceptable?
That is acceptable, Judge. Thank you.
Is that okay with the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Fitzgibbons indicated when we spoke last that the state is not going to object to Mr. Herron staying out on bond pending sentencing. Is that right, Mr. Hubbard?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything that we need to discuss on Mr. Herron before we move on to Mr. Baranoff? Yes, the clerk's raising something. She's asking for Mr. Fitzgibbons?
Yes, so call that number.
Okay.
That's Lauren.
Okay.
She-
Okay.
She's available.
All right.
after This session is over.
The representative from this division, Ms. Harris from the Department of Corrections, asking you to call her after court today regarding the PSI, Mr. Fitzgibbons. And I'm going to send you her telephone number in the chat function.
That would be good. Thank you, Judge.
Just let me know if you got that message.
Yes, I have received it, Judge. Thank you.
All right. And I gave you her name there also. Mr. Fitzgibbons, anything else with Mr. Herron before we conclude with Mr. Herron and start with Mr. Barano?
No, Your Honor, that would conclude everything from our end of things.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Hubbard, anything else from you on Mr. Herron's case?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. And for Mr. Herron, we'll see you back on February 18th at 9 o'clock in courtroom 1.
Thank you, sir.
Let's turn our attention now to State of Florida versus John Barano, 2018 CF 7525B. Mr. Rickman, are you and your client ready?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon again. Anthony Rickman on Mr. Barano. Mr. Barano is present and to my left, Your Honor. Mr. Barano is prepared at this point in time to withdraw his previously entered plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty to all 3 counts of the information.
Thank you. Can you verify the identity of your client?
Yes, Your Honor. I know Mr. Barano. He's seated to my left. I've had extensive meetings with Mr. Barano during the pendency of this case. And also present within my office are both of his parents, Your Honor. Just let the court know.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hubbard, do you have any concerns or questions relating to the identity of the defendant?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Does the state object to me swearing the defendant in without the presence of a notary and doing so by Zoom?
No, I have no objection, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr. Rickman?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barano, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You put your hand down. First of all, Mr. Barano, do you understand that you have the right to enter your plea, to change your plea in person, actually in my physical presence in court? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to your attorney about that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you are giving up that right by proceeding to changing your plea through Zoom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what you want to do?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a form called the Waiver of Physical Presence in Court for out-of-custody defendants. Did you read and understand that form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to your attorney about that form?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to hold that form up. Is this the form that you read and understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to proceed in changing your plea through Zoom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or medication?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any mental health condition that prevents you from understanding my question?
No, Your Honor.
Do you read and understand English?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's the highest level of school that you have completed?
Graduating high school.
I'm going to hold up the plea form. Did you read and understand this form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you talk to your attorney about this form?
Yes, Your Honor.
The plea form has a list of rights in it. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
By changing your plea today, you are giving up those rights. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about the plea form or any of the rights contained in the plea form?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you are giving up your right to a jury trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
If we had a jury trial, you would be able to testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You would also be able to call witnesses. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you'd also be able to question witnesses. Those are all rights you're giving up. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're also giving up the right to require the state to prove its case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to give those rights up and change your plea to guilty in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been satisfied with the service of your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there anything that your attorney should have done in this case that did not get done?
No, Your Honor.
Anything that your attorney failed to do?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any motions that should have been filed in this case that were not filed?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any witnesses that should have been called, that should have been contacted that were not contacted?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know of any other depositions that should have been taken that were not taken?
No, Your Honor.
Is there any information that you have not received from the state of Florida that you still need to receive?
No, Your Honor.
Is there anything at all that you want your attorney to do that your attorney has not yet done?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand you're giving up the right to continue receiving information or investigating the case as it relates to your guilt or innocence?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand you're giving up the right to file any further motions in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand you're never going to be able to contest whether you're guilty or not. You're giving up that right forever. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand at the conclusion of this, once I take your plea, the only thing you'll be able to contest or appeal is the sentence that you receive. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not going to be able to appeal whether you're guilty or not. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
While we're talking about appeals, there was a motion to suppress evidence that was filed in this case. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware that I ruled on that and I ruled against you? I denied the motion to suppress.
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that by changing your plea, you will not be able to appeal my ruling in that case? So if I made a mistake, if I got that wrong and the motion should have been granted, you won't be able to appeal that to the next court up and have them correct or overrule my mistake. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you talked to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about that?
No, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about anything we've discussed so far?
No, Your Honor.
I'm not in a hurry. We've got plenty of time. If you need to talk to him about anything, then just tell me. I'll give you as much time as you need.
I don't need any more time, Your Honor.
Mr. Rickman, are you aware of any work that did not get done in this case that should have been done?
No, Your Honor. As indicated previously, we conducted extensive deposition in this case. I provided the state attorney's office with extensive mitigation, which went into why we're at the position we're at today with the plea agreement. In addition to that, I did provide the state with multiple motions in limine, which we didn't file based upon the plea agreement we reached with the state. Based upon all that, Judge, we have no other work to do on this matter.
So, Mr. Barano, your attorney just mentioned that there were potentially motions in limine that could have been filed in this case that were not filed. Do you understand you're giving up those motions forever?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any motions that didn't get filed, you're giving them up. You'll never be able to go forward on those motions or defenses. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you are not an American citizen, changing your plea will lead to your deportation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you changing your plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone forced you or threatened you in any way in order to get you to change your plea?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything in order to get you to change your plea?
No, Your Honor.
The plea agreement in this case, it's my understanding, the plea agreement in this case calls for the defendant to be sentenced to 6 years Florida State Prison with credit for 22 days. And then that's on count 1. Then on count 2, 15 years probation to run consecutive. Am I right on that?
Yes, Your Honor. It was 6 years in Florida State Prison, followed by 15 years of probation. We decided to structure it in a manner that count 1 would be completed at the term of his incarceration, and then he'd have a fresh 15 years probation on count 2.
He'd be required to do 200 hours community service. He'd have a 5-year driver's license suspension. And it would be a violation of his probation to receive any criminal traffic infractions or for him to drive without a valid driver's license. Am I correct on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Of his 200 hours community service, 100 hours he'd be required to speak about the dangers of reckless driving. if it was possible for him to do that. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Barano is going to be involved in speaking, educating youth about the situation. That'll be, if not all of his hours, at least 100 hours of his probation will be part of that.
He'd also be required to maintain full-time employment or be enrolled in school full-time. Is that an agreed term of probation?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is he going to be asked to testify, Mr. Hubbard, is he going to be asked to testify at the sentencing of Mr. Heron?
Judge, I don't anticipate that. No, we had the previous term was that he would be required to testify at trial.
Okay.
But no, I don't anticipate him having to testify at sentencing.
He won't be required to do that. Is he going to have to testify in Mr. Tristan Heron's case?
No, Your Honor.
So truthful testimony is really not a term of this plea agreement anymore. Is that right?
No, not at this point, Your Honor.
Are there any other terms of, other than mandatory court costs, are there any other terms of the sentence that have been discussed?
Your Honor, there is one thing. At the time of the offense, Mr. Barano was a juvenile. Based upon his plea agreement, we are going to waive his right to a DJJ staffing. In addition, we will waive his right to a PSI.
Mr. Barano, did you hear when I just went through all the terms of the sentence that has been agreed to in this case between you and the state of Florida? Did you hear me when I went through all those terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did that match your understanding of what your sentence is going to be?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there anything about it that you didn't understand or that sounded different from what you understood before?
No, Your Honor.
You understand this agreement calls for you to serve 6 years in prison, and after that 6 years is over, to serve 15 years on probation.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand you're going to be required to do 200 hours community service, and 100 of that will be speaking about the dangers of reckless driving.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand there'll be a 5-year driver's license suspension. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
When does that, what's the agreement with on that? Does that 5-year driver's license suspension begin immediately, or does that begin at the beginning of his probation term? What's the agreement on that?
Judge, my understanding is that will be, once he's released, that will be served as part of his probation. And that's going to be, obviously, any administrative suspension through the Department of Motor Vehicles, we don't have any control over. And that may have already been imposed and expired. So the spirit of this was that the 5 years be, part of his probation term. So when he's released from prison.
Your Honor, I have advised Mr. Barano that is a condition of his probation. He understands that any driving violation, any driving in that 5-year period would result in a violation of his probation. So we are anticipating it being a part of his probation.
So Mr. Barano, you understand that this plea agreement calls for you to serve 6 years prison. Then upon release, you begin 15 years probation. And the first 5 years of that, you'd have a driver's license suspension. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand that it would be a violation of your probation if you drove without a valid driver's license during that 5 years, or at any point without a valid driver's license. And it would also be a violation of your probation if you were to get a criminal traffic infraction. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand if you did violate your probation in that matter by either getting a criminal, receiving a criminal traffic infraction or driving without a license, you could then be sentenced to 15 years prison on count 2, which is the count you'd be serving the probation on. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand how important it would be for you not to violate probation in that manner with a driving infraction or in any manner at all?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand, your attorney said that you're waiving your right to a Department of Juvenile Justice staffing. Did you talk to your attorney about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You need more time to talk to your attorney about that.
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you're also waiving your right to a pre-sentence investigation report from the Department of Correction?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need any more time to talk to your attorney about that?
No, Your Honor.
You've been charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide. Both of those are second-degree felonies. Each is punishable up to 15 years in the Florida State Prison. Do you understand those charges and the maximum sentence you face?
Yes, Your Honor.
You've also been charged with unlawful racing on a highway. That is a first-degree misdemeanor, punishable up to 1 year in the county jail. Do you understand that charge and the maximum sentence you face?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubbard, does the state want to read the factual basis on the record again, or do you want to incorporate the one from Mr. Herron's case? What's your preference?
Judge, I would just incorporate, I read the factual basis as it applies to both defendants here. So I would just incorporate, if the defense doesn't have any objection, to the previous factual basis that I read while we were doing the plea of Cameron Herron.
Mr. Rickman, is there any objection to that, or do you want him to read it again?
No, Your Honor, we'll stipulate the factual basis as read previously.
Mr. Barano, did you hear when the have you been on this Zoom conference and listening for the entire duration of this hearing this afternoon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you listen when I went through a plea colloquy with Mr. Herron?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you hear the factual basis that the Mr. Hubbard read into the record in Mr. Herron's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that the state of Florida is incorporating that, so they're using that same factual basis to support the charges in your case? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want the state of Florida to read that again, or did you hear it and understand it the first time?
I heard it and said it the first time, Your Honor.
Do you understand those are the facts that you are pleading guilty to in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubbard, I believe you told me last time, I just want to clarify on the record. It's my understanding that Mr. Reisinger and the family of the victims in this case do not object to this plea agreement. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor. And just to clarify that, Mr. Reisinger's here. Obviously, during the pendency of this case, there's the Ravenel family, which is David, the husband of Jessica and father of Lilia. And then there's the Ravenel side, the Reisinger side, which is Bob Reisinger, who's on here, who was the father and grandfather. He has been our main point of contact for the next of kin. I've communicated probably 98% of the time with him. I have had communications with David. We've had communications together, myself and Mr. Reisinger. So I can say with certainty that the Reisinger family and Bob here as a representative is on board with this and approves. As far as David and the Ravenel family, we've had the discussions that they were involved in this, and this was what the state was choosing to do, and they expressed some uncertainty to that. But I can definitely say that our next of kin contact who's here present, Mr. Reisinger, is on board.
Did anyone from the Ravenel family raise any specific objection to it?
I would say no to that. No, Your Honor. Just their frustration and emotional responses to not being okay with this. So.
Mr. Barano, there's one form I haven't talked to you about yet, and that is, I want to go over that before I take your plea, and that's the DNA inquiry form. Did you read and sign that form?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the DNA inquiry form that you read and signed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any DNA evidence that would prove or tend to prove that you are not guilty in this case?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubbard, is there anything else that you would request this court to inquire about with Mr. Barano before I take his plea?
No, Your Honor. I think everything's been addressed. Thank you.
Mr. Rickman, is there anything from you?
Your Honor, just 2 matters. As it relates to count 3, I don't believe we had a discussion about that with the racing. Would that be a time served? We'd ask for a time served disposition on count 3.
Mr. Hubbard, is that agreeable to the state? Let's be real clear, though. Adjudication time served?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hubbard, is that agreeable to the state on the misdemeanor count?
Yes, Your Honor, since the 6 years obviously will be much more than the 364, that I have no objection to that.
Is there an agreement on when Mr. Barano will go into custody?
Yes, Your Honor. Upon conferring with the state, there's an agreement that Mr. Barano will turn himself in by 5 p.m. on Monday, January 4th at the Hillsborough County Jail. I have a fingerprint form in my possession, which I'll hand deliver and file with the clerk of court today.
Is that the agreement, Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, no objection to that, Your Honor.
Mr. Barano, on count 1, vehicular homicide, what is the plea that you want to enter?
Guilty.
On count 2, vehicular homicide, what is the plea that you want to enter?
Guilty.
And on count 3, unlawful racing on a highway, what is the plea that you want to enter?
Guilty.
Court will accept the plea of guilty, find that it is freely, voluntarily, and intelligently made, and find that there's a factual basis to support the charges. Mr. Hubbard, I understand that there's an agreed sentence in this case, but does Mr. Reisinger want to address the court prior to sentencing? And Mr. Rickman, does Mr. Barano want to address the court prior to sentencing?
Judge, Mr. Reisinger is unmuted. I'll allow him to respond to that.
Mr. Reisinger, is there anything that you want to say to the court before I pronounce sentence? You'll have an opportunity, of course, to be heard in Mr. Herron's sentencing in February. But this would be your only opportunity to be heard if you want to address the court in Mr. Barano's case on sentencing. It's an agreed sentence.
Right.
But if you want to say anything or address the court or be heard on anything, I'm going to let you have that opportunity right now.
I appreciate that. I will want to say that the state attorney's office did keep me well informed of facts involved in both cases, and it became evident to me that it was appropriate for this plea arrangement to be made with Mr. Barano, and it was appropriate for the case with Mr. Herron to proceed to a sentencing hearing, which our family is being permitted to participate in. So we plan to be there, and that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Does Mr. Barano want to address the court prior to sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
The court will adjudicate you guilty on all counts. On the unlawful racing on a highway count, the court will sentence you to time served. On count 1, vehicular homicide, the court will adjudicate you guilty, sentence you to 6 years in the Florida State Prison with credit for 22 days for time served. And on count 2, vehicular homicide, the court will adjudicate you guilty, sentence you to 15 years probation. That will be consecutive to the prison sentence that you'll serve pursuant to count 2. Terms of probation will be, you'll be required to serve 200 hours community service. 100 of those hours will be, you'll be required to speak, if possible, on the dangers of reckless driving. The court will suspend your driver's license for 5 years. And if you drive without a valid driver's license or receive any criminal traffic infraction while on probation, that will be a violation of your probation. You're required to maintain full-time employment or full-time enrollment in school at all times during probation. And the court will impose mandatory court costs. Did I miss anything, Mr. Hubbard?
No, Your Honor.
Did I miss anything, Mr. Rickman?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barano, you have given up the right to appeal the determination of your guilt or innocence. You have 30 days to appeal the sentence of the court. The court will require you to turn yourself in to the Orient Road Jail on or before 5 o'clock on Monday, January 4th, 2021. Thank you, sir. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Anything else on this case before we adjourn?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. We'll be there at the sentencing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next in this case, February 18th in courtroom 1, 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor. Happy New Year.
Thank you.